I'm the Magpie! And in this video, I want to talk about, or I want to rather share my concerns and opinions and reflections in regards to the very hot topic of AI and art. For three primary reasons, I would say. First being that I quickly did a comment in one of my previous videos, which was then in turn something that a lot of you answered to in that video's comment section. So I figured this is something that is very worthwhile to actually share with you and talk about, because, and this is leading me to reason number two, we are currently, as you're probably very familiar with, living in these digital information bubbles, or echo chambers, if you will. And I kind of noticed that in my information bubble, content in regards to AI technology contra art, most of it seems to be reactive, commenting on the technology rather than considering ethical implications or societal implications or implications, which then makes it so all of these very important things to talk about and think about and to take into consideration in regards to this technology, we're simply leaving that to the big tech giants and the companies that are pushing the technology forward. I think that we perhaps should have a bit more of an active role already in regards to what this means for us as consumers. And third reason, simply put, is that I guess I'm just arrogant enough to think that perhaps I have considered things that you have yet to consider in regards to this topic. So I'm hoping that sharing might make you think more. Feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comment section. But yeah, to jump into it, I actually want to start with zooming out a bit, taking a bigger picture approach to it, because one of my absolute main concerns in regards to the technology, where we're all discussing the detriment of art and artistic blah blah blah, I believe that the entire discourse in regards to this technology and art acts sort of as a red herring for where some of the more immediate dangers lies, because it is inevitable that we're going to have sort of a 4chanification of this technology. And I think that just by virtue of its own power, this technology has to reshape the way we think and act and consume media, digital media, in general. Because just consider for a movement like the Q movement, and then attach to it this technology, and I think you can get in your own mind a pretty good picture of what I'm saying. Fact-checking, proving legitimate sources, and just because at the moment most of these big tech companies are taking care of moral and ethics in regards to what we as consumers are able to create with the technology. That has its own disadvantages, for starters, because value alignment in regards to just human culture differences is hard. But if we throw that out the window, we are left with some really powerful weapons in the hands of, for example, political regimes wanting to affect stuff and movements who maybe doesn't have great values. And with image technology that can just create or doctor photographs and connect to that an article or a text written by something like ChatGPT that is laying down all the facts, it's going to take time and effort to disprove, and especially for these groups of people that are inclined to believe with so little substance, they are going to be extremely vulnerable and susceptible to misinformation when misinformation starts becoming better and better in just quality of misinformation, if there is such a spectrum, I don't know. And to take this sort of as a segue to talk a little bit about these echo chambers and information bubbles that we reside in, it's interesting to me how we have grown so accustomed during the past decade to having AI technology taking care of all of the catering of the content that we are delivered online. This is very much just the next step in regards to that, as far as I see it. Going from AI technology serving us the content to AI technology also creating the content that we are being served. It's very interjected, so to speak. But yeah, my echo chamber is all about art and creativity. It's virtually all the discussions that I'm having and all the content that I'm being served. So I'm gonna go into that field now and that topic because that is where I am sort of most at home. And I want to say that, in my opinion, this AI technology that we're seeing is going to be way more disruptive in regards to how we consume art rather than how we create art. As far as creating art, the worst case scenario, all things considered, is not that it's gonna stagnate creativity or anything of that sort. It is that it's super efficient, meaning that it's gonna just take our jobs. It simply fits way too well in the glove that has been painstakingly shaped by capitalism because of the nature of it being so efficient. What is the point for companies to hire humans to take time to do something that they can get a mock-up of within seconds? And I think this is going to affect every job that has a connection to art in the digital realm. But in regards to music, it is very fascinating, in my opinion, how little the average consumer necessarily cares at all about who actually makes the music. I think that is a phenomenon that is for artists alone at this point, or just people that are interested in making things or interested in other people making things. But it's fascinating to me that most of the music that an average consumer averagely consume are just served to us also. Playlists on Spotify with generic terminology that has nothing to do with art whatsoever. It's workout 120 BPM or cooking playlist. And I think that it's a very double-edged sword, and I think it's very, very true that for just the consumer of music, this is the future. Why wouldn't it be? I understand that we love some music and we're always going to do that, but what is the point of more and new music when so much of new music for the average consumer is just generic rehashings of what has already been done already? Which just fits gloriously with the AI technology that we're seeing being developed. Very fascinating now with, I think it was MKBHD did a video in regards to a voice AI that can be a voice. So if you're a big fan of, I don't know, the Beatles or Queen, what makes you think that they're not gonna make AI technology where you can simply get new Queen music or Beatles music in real time? Which just leads me to the same conclusion, that the technology is simply gonna take care of the content itself, and it's also, which it's already doing, taking care of all of the serving of the content to us. And this is of course also where the money is to be made by the ones who are spearheading and developing the technology. I don't think they necessarily care about us artists able to make our little art that, in the case of many of us, maybe a couple of 100 people tune into and really, really appreciate. And I think that we could turn it around and look at it as us simply being able to take advantage of the technology that is being created for something entirely different. So more power to us as artists for taking advantage of this technology and actually creating things with it. I believe the discussion becomes tiny bit misguided if we are to regard this technology as something that has anything necessarily to do with creativity. It is more about how we value creativity, and we have decided that money is the way to go. And for people that are more interested in making money than making art, looking at the technology from that lens, you see a very different technology, I would say, and especially possibilities with this technology, because it will be more efficient and it won't necessarily ask questions. It will just deliver, and also it will never demand something as silly as fair compensation. But I also see a lot of arguments in regards to it simply mimicking humans or human art, and that it will only ever output bad copies of what has already been made, which is a very interesting argument, because it leads to when do we stop inputting, and is that too late? Which I believe that it is. I don't think that there's necessarily a cap on combinations in regards to taking different forms of art and smashing them together to output somewhat new thing. I think that's very possible to do with this technology, and we even if we are to decide now, like we legislate that from now on no art or nothing of the sort that is being posted online can be used to train these models, it's already accessing everything up until now. So we've already gotten to perhaps a point where it's simply too late. It's got enough data to train itself on to be able to do everything that we are able to do, if not better, at least faster. And it ties very much back to the exponential growth of the technology. I could actually maybe read you what that means, because it's kind of interesting to try and understand. Actually, I just want to read you this that ChatGPT just said when I input the prompt of exponential growth AI. Exponential growth in AI raises concerns about the ethical and social implications of these systems, such as job displacement, biases in decision-making, and privacy issues. It is important that we continue to develop AI in a responsible and ethical way to ensure that the benefits of this technology are accessible to everyone and that potential harms are minimized. I agree. Lost my train of thought a tiny bit, but I think where I was going was in regards to potentially what is the role of the artist in modern day society. And I believe that this technology can free us from the constraints of even considering having to make money with our art. So my hopes is that this type of technology can solve humanitarian problems and such things in a rate that sort of co-aligns with what it's doing for art, meaning that it's gonna free us from having to limit ourselves to making money with our creativity. Because it's equally interesting how so much of what art has turned into content, and maybe I should make a video in regards to what is art and what is content as well. But it's fascinating to me how the packaging of art is being packaged as content, because we want to deliver it online and be able to reach people with our art, and the best way to do that is through the framework of content, and content is inherently tied to marketing. That is sort of the point of content to an extent, if not explicitly, then at least by association. And that just goes back to why would you, as a company, want to pay for that when you can create that for free? Also, very, very interesting, I listened to an interview recently where it was one of the experts in the field, I can't remember the name, but he told a story about having been at a convention pretty recently where sort of the leaders in this technology, I think this was in South Korea, they were talking about, well, how do we market with this type of technology? And they were very proud that they had solved that. They had created these avatars in a virtual reality type space that were based on something such as ChatGPT, where you and me as humans were befriending these avatars, getting to know them through for months, really believing that we are connecting with other people. But throughout these months, they were just product placing. Kind of subliminally, they were just, oh, I just got the new smart stick. Have you seen it? And it's a really good product. You should maybe get one, and we can do smart sticky things together with each other. And just this going on forever. And we as consumers, we never know that this is what we are interacting with. We think that this is just a trustworthy person that I know. So that is also just really, really scary if that is the direction we're gonna go into, because we have been shaped, I would say, at least many of us, into trusting influencers already. Influencers that are just working with marketing. But yeah, in regards to creating art or creating music, I believe, as I said previously, that we should simply take advantage of where we can have an advantage with this technology. And I think that this is sort of a double-edged sword, but I think what is going to happen quite a lot is that if I am a person who focuses on making music, I can, with AI technology, make a music video or cover art. And if you are a videographer or movie maker, you can have an AI make the music for the movie you're doing. And I say that this is a double-edged sword because I believe that this is so gonna hurt communication and collaboration, but it's also going to be very easy and accessible, and it's going to help us package what we want to do creatively into what we could never accomplish before. But I also believe that from the point of view of the companies that are making this technology, we're already seeing this with big companies such as Adobe now releasing what was it called, Firefly or something like that, where you, silly enough, can also opt out of having what you create with it being used to train the model. But I think that more and more companies are going to do this, and I believe that every DAW is most likely going to have an AI inside of it, where you can just, whenever you're stuck, it can help you or whatever. Like, it can probably do everything if you want to, but I think that is the power for us as creative people, that we don't want or need it to do everything for us. There's no point in that. If you are actually a creative person, you want to do stuff. Like, it's a silly discussion to have with that in mind. I just want to do stuff. Help me do the stuff where I'm stuck or where I don't really feel like, okay, I don't want to do that part of it, so that I can focus on where I actually want to be creative. So I think that the discussion lies more in, like, will it reduce the, I don't know, objective quality of the music being outputted? No. Yes, it will be harder to find things through the noise, but it's already virtually impossible. Like, the fact that I'm blessed with you watching me right now is quite unbelievable, I would say, in regards to, yeah, just take one number. The last number I heard in regards to this was that over 3,000 hours of video content is uploaded every minute to the platform of YouTube where you're watching this. How are we supposed to compete?